Now that we talked about chord scales, it's time to connect your lines, and this is how you do it. Hey everybody, it's your friendly neighborhood saxman Alex here. If you haven't already, check out my other series. I have a sax ed series, I have a review series, and I have the new Battle of the Sax Reads 2021, so go check that out. And don't forget to subscribe. It's really easy, just click the button, hit the notification bell, and you'll be up to date on everything from your friendly neighborhood saxman Alex. This coffee was sponsored by my grandpa, Bilo. Thank you, Bilo, or gracias, Bilo. If you want to support me, buy me a coffee. The link is in the description down below. Now let's get to it. If you backtrack to my previous video on jazz ed, we were talking about chord scales and some easy tips and tricks to help you start utilizing the full potential of the chord scale on a tune or on any chord that you want to improvise on. We talked about digital patterns and how to utilize the most important notes in the chord scale, including the 1, the 3, and the 7. Now, while that is awesome and great, you will sound a little repetitive if this is the only thing that you do. Jazz is all about flow. It's all about the spontaneous, and if you do something repetitively 3 or 4 times in a row, then you lose that element. So in order to spice up your solos, I would suggest connecting lines with enclosures. Enclosures are a really easy way to connect your line A to your line B, or whatever you're feeling in the moment, to get to that really nice buttery note.
What are enclosures?
Super easy. Enclosures are chromatic passing tones that are targeting a certain target note. So for example, if your target note is G, one way to have an enclosure to get to that G would be A flat, G flat, to G. So you have a half step above the note, a half step below the note, and then finally reaching your target, which is your G. This is great because we kind of outline where we want to go without actually explicitly showing you where the note is. Hence making your solos much more spicier, and it's just a great way to connect lines. If you use the digital patterns that we talked about last time, you can use these enclosures to start out the digital pattern. That way you don't have to just sequence it up in fourths or fifths or whole steps or half steps, but rather you can enclose and start a digital pattern and go somewhere else with it. This is a great way of connecting all of the notes of the chord scale, and you don't have to always just use it at the beginning of the measure or on beat 2 or on beat 3. You can do it at whatever time you want. A very important thing to note is that enclosures are limitless, which means that you can have 2-note, 3-note, 4-note, 5-note, 6-note, 7-note, 8-note enclosures to get to that buttery target note that you want. Take into consideration, if you want an 8-note enclosure, you're gonna have to prepare a lot to get to that buttery note. If you're not prepared and you just start playing a bunch of chromatic enclosures, then it won't make sense and your solo will just sound really crunchy. And not the good type of crunchy. So what I suggest is to start out with a 2-note enclosure, maybe a 3-note enclosure, and at the most a 4-note enclosure, because that's a lot to prepare for. Believe me, 4 notes may not sound like a lot, but they really are. You have to consider how far away you want to start your enclosure to get to the note that you want to. And this is just the beginning. Enclosures later on in this series take on a much more harmonic role in the jazz theory world. So before we move from the enclosures into scales, I want you to all get familiar with using these digital patterns we talked about in our previous video so that we can connect these patterns together. Then we'll move forward to arpeggiations, scales, and substitutions. But for now, I'm going to show you a little bit of how to practice enclosures. So sit back, relax, and I'll see you in a bit. I hope you enjoyed my demonstration, and I hope you enjoyed this new concept of enclosures, because it is very important and almost essential. Every jazzer does it. If you listen to Chris Potter, if you listen to Melissa Aldana, if you listen to Charlie Parker, if you listen to Sonny Stitt, if you listen to Ben Webster, if you listen to Lester Young, if you listen to yada yada yada, they all do enclosures at one point or another in their solos and in their careers, period. So it is very important that you learn this. Above all the harmonic, saturated stuff that we do all the time, enclosures are really nice, and they show that you know what you're doing. So if you want to know what you're doing, do enclosures. So thank you for watching the video, and of course I will make a part 3 which will include arpeggios, so stay tuned for that. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for your latest jazz ed, sax tips, and much, much more. Stay saxy. Am I talking too soft? You're just playing a bunch of chromatic notes without any...